Good afternoon or morning, depending on where you are, and welcome to today's Leadership Reimagined webinar. I'm Alyssa Ring, and I'm excited to be your host for this conversation brought to you today by Future Business Leaders of America and Arrowhead Leadership Consulting. First off, thank you for being here. Whether you're a student trying to map out your career or even a professional looking to level up your leadership game, or you're just here to hear from some incredible executives, we're glad you're here. Now, while today's discussion isn't necessarily about Women's History Month, I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that we have an all-woman panel of powerhouse leaders with us today. But they're not here because they're women. They're here because they're experts, they're innovators, and they're decision makers who have made serious impacts in their specific industries. Leadership isn't about gender, and it isn't about being the best one in the room. It's about showing up, making tough calls, and driving change. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about here today. So let's jump in. I'm excited to introduce our panelists, each bringing a unique perspective and a wealth of experience to the table. First up, we have Lieutenant Colonel retired Robin Johnson. Robin dedicated over 20 years to the United States Army with career highlights that include 5 deployments to Afghanistan and Iraq and commanded at the battalion level. She is now a Hoover Institution Veteran Fellow at Stanford University and serves as faculty at both the Institute for Defense and Business at Duke University and Thayer Leadership at West Point. Not stopping there, she's also a guest lecturer for Stanford Medical School. But beyond her military expertise, Robin is a subject matter expert in leadership performance and integrating humor into medicine. She's a certified humor professional, and yes, that's a real thing, and uses her expertise to edutain audiences worldwide. Robin, we're thrilled to have you here today. Next up, we have Dr. Anderson, Dr. Natasha Anderson. Dr. Anderson is a leader in the STEM world, an accomplished author, and a passionate advocate for minority women in STEM. With a background in mechanical engineering, she has taken her technical expertise and applied it to education. Serving as the director of engagement at a leading nonprofit, she develops strategic partnerships to inspire kids of all ages to see STEM in a new and fun light. She's also the founder of Nerdy Brain LLC, a company that provides leadership consulting and professional development in the STEM sector. And if that wasn't enough, she's the host of Stemming in Stilettos, a podcast celebrating minority women in STEM, and the author of several books from children's literature to motivational guides. Dr. Anderson, we can't wait to hear from you today. Now, let's welcome Jennifer Woods. Jennifer is the national president and CEO of the Future Business Leaders of America, which is the nation's largest business, career, and technical student organization with over 200,000 members across the country and beyond. Under her leadership, FBLA has helped students develop skills, confidence, and the leadership experiences they need to be able to succeed in the workforce. And prior to FBLA, Jennifer played a pivotal role at Junior Achievement, where she led corporate partnerships and fundraising strategies to expand the career pathways, financial literacy, and entrepreneurship opportunities for students worldwide. She's also deeply committed to supporting young women in leadership and entrepreneurship and chairs her hometown's Women Giving Circle, championing initiatives that invest in the success of women and girls. Jennifer, as always, it's an honor to have you with us. And last but certainly not least, we have Kaya Monroe-Rarick. Kaya is the CEO of Haven Steel Co., a growing miscellaneous metals contractor that has thrived under her leadership. But her career path is anything but traditional. Before leading a multi-million-dollar company, she spent years in academia as the chair of the theater department at Southern Connecticut State University. Prior to that, she worked in the fast-paced world of advertising. And now, as the leader of a steel company that has grown from a small startup to over 50 employees, landing major projects. She's proving that leadership skills transfer across industries, and there is no boundary. Proudly, she's also a chicken farmer, a self-proclaimed mommy extraordinaire, and a character actress who has finally aged into her type. Kaya, we're so excited to have you here today with us. Now, with all the introductions completed, let's jump into the conversation. Today, we'll be covering a range of topics from leadership and resilience to navigating all sorts of challenges in various industries. So, to begin, can each of you share a little bit about your journey to leadership and what really inspired you to pursue the path that you're on today? And let's start with Kaya, move to Jennifer, Dr. Anderson, and then Robin.
Certainly. Well, thank you so much. That was an incredible introduction, by the way, Alyssa. I'm going to have to steal that the next time I write a bio for myself. So yeah, I think my journey has been, I think, a bit atypical. As Alyssa mentioned, I started as a professional actor out of graduate school. I have my MFA. And so I did that for about 7 years. But my life goal wasn't to be a famous or great actor. It was to be the chair of a theater department. And so I transitioned into academia and did that for about 16 years, went through the tenure and promotion process, and then met my life's goal. I became chair of the theater department and was doing that and loving life. And then my husband came home one day in 2018. He was actually the superintendent for a major erection firm here in Connecticut. And he came home and said, hey, my boss is retiring. They've offered us the company. What do you think? And I said, hell no, we are definitely not doing that. But clearly my husband has great powers of persuasion, because 5 months later, I became CEO of the Haven Steel Erectors, and I have been learning on the job ever since.
Well, that just
Great.
proves to show how it can transform and boundaries don't matter.
Great. Well, I get to follow Kaya here. Jennifer Woods, CEO of FBLA, but my journey really started as early as high school, where I really wanted to always learn, always look at new opportunities, and had some real interesting leadership opportunities, what you can have at 16 and 17, leading teams in retail. And I was excited about learning, and went off to college. I really thought I was going to be in sports medicine, and then realized I was going to have to go to graduate school. Wasn't sure I really wanted to be a PE teacher at the age of 80. But I really always was engaged in business opportunities, part-time and working, and had a really strong work ethic. And I had a mentor who said, you enjoy teaching, you enjoy education. Why don't you go into business education? I was like, can I do that? And they were like, yes, you can teach business and skills. And so I ended up going to be a career in technical educator by training. But I learned pretty quickly early on that I wanted business experience. If I was going to share what was it like to be in a leadership role, what is it like to work in business, I needed to have that experience myself. And so post-student teaching, the great piece of being a business educator is that you get all the business courses as well as the education courses. And so I had the opportunity to work for a bank, Bank of America, Nations Bank at the time. I worked with them in 3 states in various leadership roles, working on merger teams, and really developed that business experience. And as many people do, was at the time you could answer ads in the paper. Junior Achievement was looking for an assistant director in their Maryland operations. And I thought, gosh, I could bring my education hat back on as well as my business hat, and started that journey of really bridging the gap between business and education, working for organizations like Junior Achievement, which has led me to be the CEO of FBLA. But along that journey, it's always been about how do I continue to grow my skills? How do I take an opportunity and learn something new that's going to support and help me gain knowledge to be where I am? And so while I worked for Junior Achievement for 24 years before I arrived at FBLA, that was never in one spot. That was working globally, that was working nationally, that was leading a Maryland operations. And each turn was about that opportunity. How could I take that opportunity and grow? And then how did I take that next jump and learn something new? And so I think that's been my journey is taking the opportunities, taking the jump, not necessarily worried about the title or what the paycheck was. It was about growing my skill set so I'd understand that role. So, during my journey in this job at FBLA is, I know what partnership means. I know what raising dollars mean and working in the corporate sector because I've had that skill set. I know what it means to be in a classroom as many of our advisors. I've been there. I know what it means to create strategic partnerships for our classrooms with our corporate partners through the workforce elements. So that's been the fun piece of my journey.
I think I'm next, right? Okay. Um, it's always, and I know that probably each woman here will tell you it's been this windy, twisty road. It's like it's not straight. So if anyone out there is listening to us, and hopefully there is at least one person listening to us, it's not straight. It's not this linear shot from, hey, I want to be this when I'm 12 to becoming that. Maybe for some people, that was not my story at all. I am the only engineer, only doctor, only all the things in my family. And it was a windy, twisty road to get there. Being in leadership, I don't even know if that was a thought. It was, let me get to the next day, especially going through in engineering school at Georgia Tech. It was just, can I finish? And then once I finished, moving into as a junior engineer, you get the sucky jobs. Like you don't get the glamorous jobs, the one that wins awards and all those things. Like I wasn't, I was going to little small towns doing, redesigning bathrooms. I'm designing a car part or a train car part for a multi-million-dollar train, and my part is this small. So leadership was not on my mind. It was not on my agenda. But as I continued to grow into the role, and I saw myself less and less, it became a matter of who is going to do it if not I. And at that point, it was like, well, I'm here, I'm already in the seat or in a seat, I might as well show up, right? And so that has been kind of the story of my life since then. If I'm going to do it, I might as well do it well. And so I'm a student first. I've been a teacher and all the things, but if I don't know it, I will learn it. Teach me, I'll find someone, if not inside that business or outside that business. This is what's happening, can you teach me? I am teachable, or these days I like to say, hey, everything is learnable, right? So it's just a matter of where to find that information. So that has been the story of my entire leadership career, in every single role, whether that was sideways or upwards, or it may be a step backwards, it has been a matter of what can I learn here and how is that going to move me forward? When I left engineering to get into teaching, again, it wasn't because I didn't love it. It was because I saw that there were so few of us, and us is twofold, us as women, but us as women of color. And I was like, well, I need to catch it on the front side and not the back side. And so that was my thought. And so even as a teacher, I'm a young teacher with an engineering degree. I don't know the teacher lingo. I don't know all of that stuff. Ended up being a trainer of teachers. So, so it's like one of those things where I go where God puts me. So he puts me in leadership positions because I've been fashioned that way. And so now I'm in a place where my two worlds get to collide. I get to use my engineering background and STEM background to make STEM more equitable for teachers and for students, which is like a dream job for a person like me. So, and I do it from a leadership position, but I have no problems getting my hands dirty. And I think all of us would attest to leaders sometimes have to do that. We've already run that road several times over, but sometimes every now and then we have to get in there and do that work too. And so um I love what I do, and from a leadership perspective, if you aren't walking into a place where you love what you do every day, then I think you need to find something else to do. But I'm lucky, and so I will end my leadership journey there.
Hi, everybody. Well, gosh, these are really tough ladies to follow. I would say my siblings would say that I kind of came out of the womb as a leader. I'm the oldest of four, but I was always kind of the jokester, the class clown, and so really just loved to make people laugh. I remember probably around 7. Not to say that I wasn't bossy to my siblings, and I know bossy and leadership are different, but they would say bossy. Um, and then when you're the class clown, of course, you don't get scholarships to college because your grades were probably not the top of your class like mine. So I ended up joining the Army to pay for college. And that's where I really learned about leadership, but at least from the Army perspective, which is a bit hierarchical, and also in the framework of, okay, you're motivating teams, you're inspiring others, you're managing a lot, you have a huge amount of responsibility. But in my 26 years of service, what I learned as I grew as a soldier was that so much about leadership was really about also being very humble and being authentic. And it, I just felt for so long the Army had told me, like, you need to be tough, you need to be confident, you need to be in charge. And I thought, well, also, I need to admit when I'm wrong. I need to solicit feedback. I need to embrace feedback. And I think 2 things make you do that really well. One is humility, and 2 is a sense of humor. And so when I transitioned out of the military, I thought, how do I teach other leaders how to embrace this superpower of humor to be better at what they do, to lead their teams better, to foster a better climate? So that's how I got to here. Back to you, Alyssa.
No, those are really great answers. And I think one of the common themes that I heard was being uncomfortable and seeking that next challenge. And so I know, the term or the phrase, you don't grow until you're challenged, really, I think shows in the journeys that you guys have shared with us here today. So thank you for that. The next question I have kind of along the same lines, and Jennifer, if you don't mind, we can start with you and then I'll open it to the floor if anybody has any injects, is we all have an image of what leaders do and how they're supposed to be, but leadership often comes with surprises. What is an aspect of leadership that has caught you off guard or you didn't anticipate?
I think one of the things, especially being in a leadership role, is sometimes it can get lonely at the top. That you look for people to turn to. It's really important to have mentors around you. When you're leading a team, there's so many times that you do want that feedback, and you want to solicit it certainly from your team, but you do need some of those outside mentors that can be objective and can hold you accountable to what you're doing. And so I think it can be lonely. And so having a group of mentors around you is so incredibly important at all levels. I know for myself personally, and I think many of the fellow panelists have the same. I wear a lot of different hats. I'm CEO during the day at work. I'm CEO at home, and I have schedules. I'm running for 2 very active boys at the same time. So I've got a lot of what I would call leadership. And sometimes you just need somebody to bounce things off of. Am I going crazy? Is this the right approach? How would you approach it? Can you give me some advice? Or just simply to be an ear, or to call me out on the carpet and say, what are you thinking? Why would you do that? And so I think that's a big piece for myself is it does get lonely at the top, and having a support group is really, really important.
I agree very much, and that's I would have answered it very much in the same way. That loneliness was the thing that caught me by surprise as well, right? There's no hanging out of the proverbial water cooler when you're the leader, you know, at the top of the org chart, and loneliness is really something you have to deal with. And for me, it's all the more reason for leaders to have a really healthy personal life, that rich life outside of work that fills you and gives you, like, fills up your cup, so you're ready to go back and handle a lonely work day. Yeah.
I think what has surprised me the most about being in leadership, I think there are 2 things. One is that the image that people have of you is so vastly different, well, in my case, than I really am. So when I hear, like, oh, I thought you were XYZ123, when they actually have a conversation or sit next to me, or we converse and they get behind the veneer, I guess, and I'm not whatever it was, this image they had of me. And I'm oftentimes, and I've stopped asking. I've literally stopped asking, like, well, who did you think I was? Like, and then it gets trippy in here sometimes, because it's like, well, who am I showing up as, right? And then I think, wait, no, because you know who you are, right? This is not necessarily about you. This is about this other person's professional, whatever, and who they may have had as leaders before, all combining together to, have an image or a veneer of you. And having come to that conclusion, it's like I have to learn, or I had to learn very quickly to be true. Who I am, right? You have to be really strong in knowledge about who you are as a person, as a woman, doing whatever it is you're doing, because there are these pictures and roles that people would want you to play, and the minute you don't, then you're doing it wrong. So that was a surprise, though it shouldn't have been, but it was still a surprise for me.
I think what I underestimated most was the mental and emotional toll that leadership has on a person. The weight of responsibility that you have, especially in the profession of arms and combat, and the decisions I'm making affected people's lives. These are people's sons and daughters, husbands and wives. So that's a lot of weight on a leader's shoulders. But I think it's for any leader. I mean, whether you're making decisions in combat or you're making decisions that affect people's finances or their home life or job security, these are important things. And so what I try to help now clients understand is, as a leader, like, one, be expecting it. It's going to be a lot. There is a weight to it. 2, take care of yourself, have a plan that surrounds yourself with a good tribe of people that can encourage you and fill you back up when you're drained. And then 3, like, give yourself a little bit of a break. Like, it's okay if you are at your capacity and you need to take a knee for a second. It's going to be okay. We all go through those phases. And so just not to be so hard on yourself.
Such valuable insight and perspective that you all gave. That, the burden of leadership, right? It is that burden that you all just spoke about, and shed light on. And being in a position of leadership has such great fulfillment and responsibility, but it also comes with the burden of everything that you all just mentioned. So thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that with us. This next question is for you, Kaya. I'd love to know, your leadership journey is just so incredibly unique, from the stage to Steel. It's probably one in a million. And so as you've transitioned from academia into the arts and into leading a multi-million-dollar steel company, what were some of the biggest challenges you were faced when shifting industries? And how did your previous experiences help shape the way that you lead in your current position?
Absolutely, great question. Having not been chair of the theater department, I could not be doing the job I'm doing right now. So I had this wonderful mentor in academia, Dean Stephen Grease, who saw something in me when I was a young professor and just started pushing me out front and giving me opportunities to learn, right? And all of the skills I gained in doing that. So doing internal self-studies, 5-year plans, curriculum development, having to get up and give speeches, write 180-page reports, etc. Even having to let people go and mentor people, adjuncts and that kind of thing, allowed me to have the skill set that I have, to do this job. But there's, other than the things I just mentioned, there's very little overlap between the arts and construction, right? Uh, and what has served me well is being a lifelong learner and being raised by 2 lifelong learners. My parents were both PhDs in education, which meant that they taught teachers, and they were curious and interested in the world and seeking new knowledge. I mean, up until the day they died. And that has been my model and my North Star for my whole journey as a person and a professional. And so, from day one, suddenly finding myself the CEO of a company, and to be realistic, the company was my husband and I sitting at our dining room table for the first year. I mean, there was very little to lead. It was all about learning what is this? How do I do this? I never had a single business course in my life. I didn't know what a spreadsheet was. I didn't know how to write an invoice. I didn't know how to hire people to do that. And so it was all about reading and learning and reading and learning, right? That whole first year, and being really comfortable with mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes on the job, right? As long as you learn from them. Oh yeah, there we go. That is a mistake. I won't do that again. Thank you very much for bringing that up to me. And gaining that knowledge. I also had terrific opportunities. That we are a union company, and the union presented opportunities for me to go and get training. So here's this MFA in theater going out, and I actually went through the whole apprenticeship program to become a journeyman ironworker. I sat in on all the classes. I was the person sitting up front taking notes, right, trying to be the good student. But getting that knowledge not only allowed me to do the job, but also gained respect of the men I'm leading. And I say men because construction, especially ironworking, really is 99% men. I think out of the 270 employees I have had over 7 years, 3 have been women, right? So it's a male-dominated industry, and you have to have street cred, man. You gotta have the street cred to stand up in front of them and talk, right? And so I have a bunch of certifications, like my track certification. I can drive a lull. I can do all this stuff now that I couldn't do 7 years ago, and all of that is to gain my employees' respect. So those are some of the things I did to help ease the transition, and I'm not done. I'm still learning. I'm going to another learning ship opportunity next week, sponsored by Turner Construction. They've been a really great mentor to me, and just keep seeking and being curious and leaning forward and knowing that you're never, ever, ever done.
Yes, a life of learning. Also a common theme. I think that segues perfectly into this next question. Robin, this one's for you. Your experience spans military leadership, academia, and now the science of humor. High pressure environments demand resilience and adaptability, as you mentioned, having the lives of people resting on your shoulders. How do you help leaders improve performance under pressure? And what role does that humor play in fostering strong and effective leadership?
Yeah, seems like kind of a weird jump, right? To go from combat leading people to like telling jokes on a stage, which I love to do, by the way. I love both. I love leading soldiers and I love telling jokes. I think honestly, you have to have a sense of humor to be a great leader. I don't think you have to have it to be a good leader, but if you want to be a great leader, because if you think like a comedian, comedians, they read the room. They are very present in the moment. They're responding as things go, being very witty with the audience. So I think that if you can harness that in your leadership approach, you'll be a much stronger leader. Um, I also think there's an element of humor that is about controlling your mind. I don't care if you're male or female, all of us have some sort of imposter syndrome or doubt about our abilities at some point. I mean, we know this because all the big, NFL teams, NBA teams have mental skills coaches to help players deal with what's in their mind to make them their very best performers. So it's not just a woman issue when it comes to that. And so when you look at the world, your perspective on the world is one way, but if you have just a little bit of humor with it, you're going to be able to see more optimistic solutions, which means you're going to see opportunities that maybe other people wouldn't see. For example, like if I'm driving down 395 and a little Prius cuts me off, I'm like, oh man, I almost died. Like I almost got cut off on this jerk, and I could say some things, or I can use humor and go, you know what? That smart car and that person with their smart water and their smartphone, and they still drive like they're stupid. Just being able to look at the world differently gives you like a fresh perspective. And I don't want to go over time, but I will say one example. I was helping a veteran named Melvin, and Melvin was really frustrated with his wife. And he was just like, oh my gosh, she's on my nerves. Like our relationship's over. I want a divorce. I was like, you know what? Let's write a joke about it. What's going on? Well, Melvin was blind. And so legally, visually impaired. And so we sat down and Melvin and I wrote this joke. And it goes, my name is Melvin. I've been legally blind for 6 years. This morning, my wife asked me if I'd seen her keys. Nope. Then she asked me, have you seen my glasses? Nope. Then she asked me, do I look fat in this dress? Yes. He laughed so hard at that joke. And for a moment, and actually for moments after, he felt less frustrated with his wife. He could see like the optimism in the situation of the dynamic in their marriage. And so just by applying a better perspective, not only helps you with your relationships but also just your ability to see I guess the light at the end of the tunnel or think of innovative solutions that you might not have considered.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. This next one, this question is going to go to Dr. Anderson, and it's something that I think everybody has touched on in previous answers. So I'm really, really curious to hear your insight. But who were your mentors and role models, and what lessons did you learn from them?
Okay. Honestly, I have two, and they are my parents. So people, I think this, so I'm a twin, so I'll just tell that. So there's another one who looks just like me. And when I was in the second grade, or my sister and I were in second grade, we integrated a school where we live. And I'm really to say the time of integration, but we literally integrated this school. And my sister and my brother, my older brother. And when I didn't know then, but I soon found out that the amount of work that my mother literally had to do behind the scenes to keep us out of special ed I knew some of it because she told us, and I knew some of the work we had to do. So we were the kids for everybody. We were the kids who would go to school in the daytime and then come home and do extra work. And I don't mean just like extra work. I mean, we were learning multiplication tables and reading books and having to give book reports at home. Like these were my parents. This was my mother in particular, because my mother understood that at the time we were behind the eight ball as it related to education. So, and my mother really stood on this idea that you will have the best that I have to give to you. And right now it's that school up the street, and they will educate you if it kills me. And that was the way she looked at it. And so I have a keen understanding when my mother says, "You do not want me to come to the school." It means something else when she says it. So, and also my dad is or was a mechanic, and I really believe he is one of the reasons why I get to sit in the seats that I get to sit in. I built my first engine when I was 11, because we spent, I don't know, a lot of time in the garage with my dad, because he's a mechanic, but his one of his side jobs was building customized engines for race cars, for drag race cars. And he was really good at it. I mean, I could tell you stories about how we were at in NHRS, RA events, with some of the engines that he built and some really famous people's cars, in that industry. And so I know an engine inside and out. I usually am the one who tells my husband when there's something wrong with the car, because I have that experience. And so they instilled in me drive, need, resilience, all of the things that you need in order to push forward. And they did it in very different ways. My mother is the loud one, if you're going to call it. She's always out loud, lives her life out loud. But my dad very quietly did what he did. And so they are my role models to this day.
That's beautiful. I think a lot of people would or could say that same thing, if they had to pick who had great influence on their lives. And so I definitely appreciate that. And I'm sure there's a lot in the audience that appreciate that as well. Jennifer, next question is yours. With your background in shaping young leaders at FBLA, at JA, and everything else from the education standpoint, what advice would you give to young women and even males, it doesn't really matter, who are aspiring to leadership roles but unsure where to start?
Yeah, and I think wherever you sit, you're a leader. You can lead from where you are. And so I think it is, we've talked a lot about the journey of learning. Learn, understand where you are, understand your role. How can you be proactive, step up in ways, is really, really important. I think we are constantly learning. We constantly have the opportunity to step up. We constantly have the opportunity to take on a challenge and do that. I mean, that's how you grow as an individual. No matter whether you're in the top seat or you're leading your own projects or your own work. We all put on our pants or our skirts the same way. I mean, no one puts them on differently. And I think you have to put yourself out there sometimes too. And I think if you see something that you think you can improve, share it. Talk about it. How can I support this? How can I grow in this area? So, I think it is a constant learning. It's a constantly thinking about how can you lead from where you are and how can you gain mentors and experience from listening and learning to others. I cannot express, you don't have to have a formal mentor, but someone that you might look up to and ask, how did you get to where you are? How can I look at ways that I can grow myself wherever I am and whatever I want to do. And you would be surprised how many people will reach out. You may think that someone sitting in a different seat, or you might find on LinkedIn, you're like, oh, well, they'll never answer me. You would be surprised of how many people want to give back and want to help someone get to the next level. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to ask for feedback. That's the other big piece of this is always, even sitting in this seat, I'm always asking for feedback from every level of people that I'm working with. What do you think? How did that land? What do we need to do differently? So ask for the feedback. But those are some of the things that I might share.
You mentioned something really powerful in the beginning, and it's you don't have to be in a leadership position to be a leader. And as a mentor to our national officers, that's something that I say to them is you don't need to be in a leadership position. You're always in a position to be a leader and to take that step and that initiative, regardless of what your title or your position says you can do. So before we open it up to the floor for questions, I do have one final question, but in the meantime, for the audience, if you have questions for individuals or for the group as a whole, please put it into the Q&A box and we will go through them. But as the final question, and I'd like to start with Kaya, move to Robin, Dr. Anderson, and then Jennifer. The question is, throughout this webinar, we've covered so many topics of leadership, and whether that's challenges that we have, mentorship, or influencers in our lives, the inspiration behind what we do. I'd love to hear from each of you. What is one key characteristic or trait that you believe will be essential for the next generation of leaders to succeed?
Great question. And I'm going to answer this from a couple of perspectives. Yes, as a business leader, but also as a mom who's navigating a lot of things with my young sons who are 11 and 12 years old. And, and I see where life is taking them, the current generation, right? And I think the piece that is missing with this very online generation, where everything's dating's happening online, socializing is happening, friendships are happening. When they have time off, they don't go run outside and play. It's playing is happening here, right? That they're missing the human component, right? And so some people skills are being dropped. And I think that it is going to be those folks that still have really great people skills and deep understanding of their fellow human beings who are going to come out on top, coming out of this next generation, because it's going to be so rare, right? I mean, there's been a study that was done of the current college graduates. This was about 4 years ago, 5 years ago or so. And it's this institute that does a study polling a certain number of Fortune 500 companies who are hiring a lot of college grads, and they rate them on these very certain criteria of job skills. And the current generation, now keep in mind this was 5 years ago, the current generation scored the lowest they've ever scored on personal communication skills, right? And that's only going to get worse, right? So for the people who can speak, who can compose themselves well in person to person, who can listen well, who have good people skills and insight into other folks, they're gonna come out on top.
No, I think I'll build off a little bit, Kaya, of some of the things that you said. I do think it is a lot of listening to understand where people are coming from. I 100% agree. I mean, the roles or careers today will look even differently 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. there are career opportunities that we haven't even thought of that will be invented, or roles that will take place, especially with the ever advancing technologies. But the human element is definitely at the core of that. And how do you build those competencies? How do you work together as a team? How do you communicate? How do you take criticism? How do you react to criticism? How do you react to growth areas? And how do you keep positive to move forward? So I do think it is listening to understand from people that you're working with, because the human element isn't going to go away. So I would concur, Kaya, that's some of the big pieces.
If we thought that it's chaotic now, this next generation, you better buckle up, because it's only going to get more complex. The only thing constant will be change. We're going to continue to operate in very rapidly changing, contested environments. So if we want to remain the greatest nation in the world, then leaders need to understand one thing, and that's it's about people. It always has been about people. It always will be about people. And like the lady said before, this means connection. How do you connect to your team? Because you're responsible as a leader to understand their needs, to support their growth, and to create environments where they can thrive. If you can do that, then you'll be successful. And again, of course, I'm going to be an advocate for humor. I think humor, as you said, Alyssa, you asked what the characteristic was. I do think a sense of humor as a game changer. It's the one thing that is underutilized right now in leadership. People just dismiss it like it's something funny. It truly is a superpower that allows people to build trust and connection with other people. So when used correctly and in business and in personal relationships, it can be a game changer.
I'll be really quick. People don't quit organizations, people quit people. It's one of the greatest lessons I've ever learned. So when I'm sitting in a leadership seat, I will just flat out tell you, my job is to make sure that you don't quit me. And so that means that you and I are going to get very familiar with each other. I need to know what you like, what you don't like, how you communicate. Each of us has an operating manual that we show up with, and it's on the leader to basically know that manual, or get that manual from the employee, download it into the culture or the organizational culture, so that you know how to work with this person that you've hired or inherited, whatever that mix is, and figure out what is the best way in which you can communicate. Because of course you too have an operating manual, and they have to learn yours as well. And so as long as there's an open, honest line of that happening, I think that there is the opportunity for innovation, creativity, all the things we've been hearing about so often, but are we really seeing? So those are the things that I would say.
Communication, communication, communication. Whether that's through humor, written or verbal, body language communication is huge, and that seemed like the common theme throughout what all of you said. I appreciate that. We are about 12 minutes out from conclusion. So what I'd like to do now is open it to the floor for questions. Because we're running low on time, I'd like just one person to answer the question so that we can get through more questions before concluding this fantastic session. So the first question that I have is, what advice do you have for getting started with a career? A lot of the higher leadership positions require experience. So what ways can you gain that experience? Anybody want to take a shot?
I'll jump in, I guess. Yeah, mine was kind of easy because I joined the army, right? They just kept kind of pushing me through. But what I would say, I think a lot of people do is they do not take credit for the things that they do that they don't see as work. There are so many things that we do on our day to day, whether it's organizing a PTA event or volunteering at your church or wherever you're involved in. Like those things are demonstrating leadership, and you just may not see it and be taking credit. So don't look at your expertise just as your education and your work experience. Look at everything you're doing. I mean, I am a domestic executive here at my house. Like my kids know, like I run this place. Okay. So yeah, I would just say make sure you're including all of that. And don't feel like you have to be humble about that. Like, yes, you did that. It's okay.
Absolutely. And for FBLA students on here, like that experience that you're gaining just from being in this organization, capitalize on that. Okay. As a leader, how do you get through challenges, especially ones that may be formulated due to things outside of your control?
I got this one. I think challenges, number one, are going to happen. So acceptance that challenges are going to come is number one. Number two, I think it goes back to what someone said earlier about learning how to read the room or read the situation for what it is, right? Clearly, flatline it, like take all the emotions out of it, all the things if you can, and then look at whatever the challenge is, and then get somebody neutral to help you look at it. Jennifer talked about having mentors and other people come in, have someone assess the situation if you are unable to sort of take the glasses off. And then you have to approach it head on. Challenges will not go away. And the longer you let them fester, then they get infected, and it's not a good thing. So you have to hit them head on, and deal with them. Be clear and be clear-headed, about those challenges. And I think when you attack something or you look at it with a clear mind, and you can see all of the things, and I'm process oriented. So I should preface this with saying that I'm process oriented. So everything for me is like, what is the process that's going to help us get through this? What is the solution that's going to help us get through this? Understanding that this is a challenge, not negating that, the current situation, but I'm already in the future of like, we're going to get through this, and these are the things that we need. This is the situation, but these are the steps we need to take to help get us through it. I think that mindset, we don't have time to wallow. So like, let's move on past that point, to the solution and processes.
Very good advice. Jennifer, I'll send this one to you. As somebody at the chapter level, how would you, or what would you recommend to a member that is looking to step up into a national role?
Sure. I think when you're looking at what does that look like, the best place to go is to those that are already in that national role. So we have an amazing team of national officers. Those are great places to start. Again, reaching out, asking them about their journey. How did they get there? What did they do? How did they see themselves? I've had the opportunity to listen to some of their journeys, and they've put themselves out there, and they've put themselves out there more than once or twice. There are many of our national team members who've been out there. They ran for national office 2 or 3 times before they reached where they wanted to go, and they learned, and they will tell you they learned every step of the way. So it is, I think, reaching out, getting people to be on your team, to advocate for you, what you want to do, be very clear about where you want to go, ask them, how can they help you get there? I think sometimes we don't ask for what we really need, and be open to what that really looks like. So definitely go back to seeking out those that are in those roles and how they got there, and how could you get there, and how could they help you get there?
Yeah, and that goes back to the people who come before you, the role models or the mentors, and what I think each of you said, which is don't be afraid to ask. Ask them what their experience was, what would set them up for success. So that's a great answer, Jennifer. Thank you. And Kaya, I'll throw this one to you because you are a chicken farmer, you are a amazing mom, a CEO of a steel company. So when life gets crazy, how do you remain optimistic when you feel so overwhelmed?
That's a really great question, and it is something I'm actually working on. Okay, I wouldn't say that I'm an expert at it. Uh, I am working on myself as a spiritual person. I'm working on myself as a mom who needs to keep stress at a minimum, right? And I happen to have an executive assistant right now who has her master's in psychology. Her name is Jeanette. And Jeanette has this habit that she has that when things get stressful at work, when they start to get hard, she gets happier, she gets more joyful, right? That ticks upward for her. And when things are really bad, Jeanette will start laughing, right? And it's this stress management technique, this strategy for mental health that she has brought to the office that I am learning so much from, right? And that's one way that I'm sort of trying to stay above, yes, the rising water. But also, I try to remind myself that my value system is such that my job is here to fund my life. My life is the focus, right? It's not the opposite. I am not a person who structures their personal life so that I can have this fabulous career. I want the opposite. I want a fabulous life, and my job is going to help me get there. For me personally, as a hands-on mom and kind of a bit of a perfectionist, uh, to me, there is no success at work that can make up for failure at home.
I think, especially for the ladies on the call, that is such a uh, valuable lesson and advice. And that's not to say that it doesn't apply to men as well, but just that work-life balance. And I think you said it beautifully when you said you don't work, you, you work to live, you don't live to work. And I think that especially in today's society where we focus so heavily on like, what do you do? Like, I think the first question we ask people when we meet them is, what do you do? Like, why does it matter what I do? What about, who are you? Tell me about yourself. And you said it earlier with having a really robust social life and having that. And I think, Robin, you said it too, having that really help fill your cup back up when you're feeling drained. And so fabulous advice. I think that this has been an absolute insightful discussion, and I hope that everyone in the audience feels as inspired and more knowledgeable in leadership and kind of just moving forward in life as I do. And so I really want to say, first and foremost, this was a fantastic discussion. I want to give you all, the four of you, Kaya, Jennifer, Dr. Anderson, and Robin, a huge thanks for sharing your experience and your insights. You all brought a ton of valuable perspective and lessons learned and qualities that I appreciate, and I really appreciate the honest and real conversation that we had. We didn't make it pretty. You guys were vulnerable and shared kind of the ups and downs of your journeys in leadership. There's no doubt that I have in my mind that our audience will be leaving today with gained valuable tools. And of course, thank you to everybody in the audience for joining us and engaging with great questions. If they didn't answer it out loud, it looks like they were busy typing away in the chat, so make sure you check that out. But conversations like this are just the starting point. And I want everybody to remember that leadership is about continuously learning, as you've heard from everybody on this panel, and adapting and stepping up when it matters. And take what you've learned today and put it into action. And if you want to keep the momentum going, be sure to join us for our next Leadership Reimagined webinar with Sarah Carter down there in the corner on March 19th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, it'll be hosted by Sarah, who is a consulting coach with Arrowhead Leadership Consulting. This is going to be another great opportunity to sharpen your skills and expand your network. So be there to continue learning. Ladies, Audience, thank you. That is a wrap for today's Leadership Reimagined session. I want to thank everybody again, and we'll see you next time.